Good morning, Central Texas. Welcome to Kids Community Connections at My Kids 1031. This is Phyllis Jones, and guess what? Yep, you're stuck with me. I'm the host, and I'm the guest, because we're going to talk about two different topics today. That's been trending on certain Facebook pages, because in radio, a lot of our topics come from Facebook, because it's trending and it's new and it's now, and sometimes some of the topics are pretty cool. Some of them you wonder, where did these people come from? But anyway, so this week on there was a lot of text messages and information people were seeking. It was about school. And me and another lady, and I'm going to name her Stephanie Williams, we've been answering a bunch of those questions on Facebook. So I realized at that point in the sheet that, there's a lot of missing information and a lot of times we need to really think as parents and as adults of our children. So I'm gonna talk about majority of them for the next 30 minutes or so. All right, number one, the issue of terroristic threats. There was on Facebook, you had a parent say that their child was being threatened by some kids in the classroom. This was second graders. As we know, second graders are 7 and 8 years old. The parents learned that the child was sent to ISS, which is in-school suspension, for a certain amount of days. Well, the parents weren't happy with that. So some of these parents withdrew their children from school because they wanted this 7 and 8 year old to be prosecuted and sent to detention center. Well, number one, a 7 and 8 year old can't go to the juvenile detention center. They can't go. The law says they can't go. So there's no, exception to, they can't go. That's just it. It's not set up for them. They can't go to kid jail. We don't have any other place to put them. They can't be kicked out of school for the rest of their lives because they're 7 and 8 years old. So ISS counseling and sending them home for that day, about the only things that a school district in Texas can do. And as far as removing your children from school, if that happens at another school, what are you going to do? So we need to think about that. Yes, we do live in a society now, in a world now, where people are making terroristic threats. They really are. But as far as a 7 and 8 year old little bitty person, if we think about it, they've been threatening forever. Now, they always threaten. They're always doing that. And not to say that it's okay for them to do it, but let's think when we talk about what needs to be done to them. A 7 or 8 year old doesn't have really a life. So whatever they learn and hear, they hear from home. They don't get it from, the girls on the street, the boys on the street, off their cell phones. They don't have Facebook or whatever like that. So they're listening to what's said at home and what they hear at home, what they look at on television, because, they ingest what they hear and they learn to utilize it later on, which is sad, but it does happen. So let's think about it when we hear that a 7 or 8 year old is making a terroristic threat. Let's not, jump through the things and say, okay, he or she needs to go to detention, juvie. No, they don't, because you need to talk to them, and we need to find out where it's coming from. If I send that child to juvenile detention, I'll never know what he said came from. He or she. I won't know what happened. I won't know what's going on at home. I won't know if there's an abusive house that he or she is coming from, and that's what's normally said. I won't know, because all I've done is prosecute the child and send them on. But just remember that the law does say who can go to juvie and who cannot, and they can't. They're not old enough. So we need to find other ways of treating that, and the school districts have, and that is what they do. So let's put to rest the big, huge scare that there is going on in a couple of the schools. And yes, the schools are KISD, Copper's Cove ISD. I assume they're going on in other schools too, but those are the ones that were trending on Facebook. Second one, we had a 4-year-old that was climbing up the slides at school. And he wanted to be first, but he wasn't first. So he decided to pull one of the kids down to say, so he could be first. Well, the other kid wasn't going for that, so they didn't fight. But the one little boy said, I'm going to kill you. Okay. Now, at that point, what you had a staff person reported to another staff person, and that person didn't do anything about it. Well, once again, the law in Texas says that that child must be taken to the school counselor and once again talked to. Because when a 4-year-old says, I'm going to kill you, quite naturally we know, number one, they're saying what they heard. Because as we know, they don't have their friends on the block to go play with. They don't, have their cell phones where they can say, hey, you know what's going on for my day. So they get what they're saying from home or from relatives or somewhere where they're hanging out at. That's what they're getting that from. So that child, instead of being ignored by the teacher ignoring the whole circumstances, should have taken the kid to the school counselor. So the school counselor can deal with that because that is their job and that is the law. And that's what KISD, Corpus Cove ISD, other ISDs, that is written down. So when a child does make a statement like that, it's not that you don't take it lightly, because I doubt very seriously if at 4 he's going to come back with an AK-47 and do anything. But it's the point that child felt the need to say it and felt comfortable with saying it. Because if you think about it, a 4-year-old doesn't know that that's wrong. If that child hears it at home, parents say it, often, sometimes we as adults will say things and we truly know what we mean. We know what we mean when we say it, but they don't. Because I'm sure at work, you come home from work one day and say, I could just kill so-and-so, so I could just smack him. Well, actually, you're not going to kill him. You're not going to smack him. But at that point in time, right there, those were the words you chose to use. And if a kid hears that, they ingest it, they take it and go, if you can say it, I can say it. Because remember, for children at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we're the models. Not me. You might say, I don't have any kids today. Okay, it doesn't matter. If you're around them and they hear you, we're the models. And if they don't know, he can say it and I can't. She can say it and I can't. They don't know that. So they in turn and ingest it and they utilize it whenever something happens. And when they get mad, they say what they've heard. So again, to parents, if that happens and to your child and kids come home and say it, the teacher's supposed to take that child to the counselor and have them, and they talk to them. And like I said, they simply have a conversation with them. What goes on when they're with the counselors, I don't know. That's not our job to know, but our job to know is that the counselor takes care of all that. So the kid doesn't just get to say what they get to say and walk away. Because remember, we got to find out the root to the issue, not just the issue. Because if we just take care of that issue and it happens again, we've never found out why it really happens and what's really going on. So those are the things I want to talk about with that. And also, there's one more. Yes. You had a little boy come home from school and he had a bunch of little pinch marks on his stomach. He told his parents that some kids at school had did it to him. Well, the parent contacted the teacher and the teacher said she didn't hear it. She didn't know it. She didn't hear nobody say nothing about it. If they're a bunch of little kids, I would say that's not true. I work in elementary school. And elementary kids tell everything. They tell everything. Everything. Teacher, he cut this piece of paper and he wasn't supposed to cut it in an angle. He was supposed to cut it straight. They tell everything. So the parent is upset and wants to know what to do. Well, dear parent or parents or anybody who has time to takes care of a child, what you need to do is you email, or say if it happens on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, email the principal and the principal's boss and let them know what happened to your child and you want some answers. Monday morning or the next day that it happens, go to the school campus, talk to the principal. Don't yell, don't curse, don't scream. Have a nice civil conversation, because I know as parents we can get kind of heightened. Something happened to my child. We get kind of carried away, but calmly go up there and demand some answers. See if your child was taken to the nurse. Because if a child has any marks on school that they didn't come to school with, we're supposed to take them to the nurse. So see if your child was taken to the nurse to see what those marks are. But by all means, do not let the teacher get away with saying, "I know. I didn't hear it. Nobody said nothing." No, you want that fixed then. You want that fixed now. Because if not, your child, it will happen again. The child is being bullied, and we know what's going on with children who get bullied. When no one comes to their defense and no one helps them, they take it into their own selves on what to do, which some of the kids we know have been committing suicide because no one's there, they feel, to protect them, because no one's listening. But we don't want that to happen. So if something happens like that, make sure your child will tell somebody, number one. But two, the teacher, it's kind of hard for me to believe that they don't know. Because like I said, I work at elementary school and they tell every darn thing. Everything. This little girl, I was in the hallway and she came up to me and she told me that this little boy was stepping on people's shoestrings and making their shoes come loose. Okay, it was cute. What she said was, I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, I don't know who class she was in or whatever, but I realized that she told me to go do something about it. So I trailed the little boy, trailed the classroom, found out who the teacher was and said, hey, this is what he's doing. One of your kids told me, but that little girl depended on me to say that. She depended on me to do something because she told me, she told me my job was to do what she said. And I came back and let her know. I'm like, okay, I took care of it. She says, okay. So guess what? If something ever happens, she feels comfortable enough to come to me because I've let her know that this issue to her was really big, that this kid is stepping on shoelaces and, nobody's doing nothing about it. And he keeps doing it and he's having fun with it. To her, that upset her. It upset her. And somebody had to do something. So she chose anybody or whoever, and she chose me. Well, okay. So my job was to do what she asked me to do. She told me my job was to do exactly what she wanted. Go tell somebody to get this little boy to stop. I did that. You might say I was crazy, didn't make sense, but guess what? As weird as it was, I'm like, he's stepping on shoelaces. Okay, well, all right. So it wasn't for me to decide whether it was important or not. It wasn't my choice. My choice was to do exactly what she said, fix the situation because she brought it to me. And a lot of times when our kids bring us situations, we choose not to do anything about it. And later on, that lets that child know, well, if I say anything, nobody's going to do anything. So I'm just not going to say anything. And things get worse. So what I'm saying is listen to your children. Elementary school kids tell everything. And parents, you know how we tell kids don't tattletale or don't tell stuff. Yeah, no, don't do that. Today is the time that we can't tell kids that anymore. If kids see something, they need to say something, much like adults. If you see something, say something. Our kids, same way. If you see something, say something. Now, like I said, most little children, the pre-Ks and kindergartners, they're going to tell you what. I know what kid in the pre-K class next door to me, I know one of the girls, her hair is messed up every time after she takes a nap. Is that important to me? No. But it was important for one little girl to tell me that. So we had a discussion that some people sleep all crazy and their hair gets messed up. So what I'm saying is, no matter what the little conversation is, that little kid's telling you, listen to it and answer them back. So if it's something that you can joke about with them, joke about it. Say, oh my gosh, you know what? My hair would look like it's crazy too after I wake up. Okay, then that's fine. It's okay. But the point is they had that conversation with you and they feel comfortable with it. So the kid that was getting pinched in the classroom, he 10-to-1 told an adult. He told somebody because the kids tell, somebody didn't listen. So parents, it's up to you to step up for your child and say, hey, I need to know, first of all, how many kids in that room. That's one you need to know too. Because if it's a 22-to-1 ratio, I'm not going to say the teacher didn't see it, but she might have overlooked it as, okay, I'll fix that later because I got 5 other things to fix. But you want it brought to somebody's attention. And the teacher, you're not trying to get the teacher in trouble, but you're simply saying, you got to be more careful. You got to have your eyes on these kids. You got to listen to what they say. I do know it gets hectic. I understand that, but teachers, educators, we need to pay attention, and parents, and you need to do the other part of the job, which is calmly going up to the school to discuss it with the principal. No yelling, no cursing, because remember, we're trying to teach our kids how to deal with things in the right way. So we need to do what they do, deal with things in the right way. We don't want to cause them to think the best way to handle something is to, scream, curse, yell, say words like I'm going to kill you or I'm going to beat you or all these other things. We need to just start handling things in a better way. And remember the rules. Like I said, a 7, 8-year-old cannot go to juvenile detention. So let's not say that because he can't go. Parents, if you're going to transfer your child out of school every time something is said by a kid, You need to think about that, because I don't know a campus or a classroom anywhere where you're not going to hear some kids say something that they shouldn't say. It happens. I mean, it does. It could happen with your kid. You don't know. So let's think about that also. All right, so I'm going to leave the bullying and all that other thing aside. And we're going to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is special ed. Parents of special needs kids. Number one, you're in control of your kid's IEP. And for those of you who don't know what an IEP is, it's an individualized education plan, and it fits that child. So it fits that particular child. Doesn't cover any other kids in that classroom. It covers that child. So number one, parents, you're in control of it. You're in total control of it. But what you need to know also this, if you're new moving to a school district and your child was in special ed or received special services in another state, you bring that to this state. The district has 30 days to reevaluate your child, because certain things they might have done in, let's say, Georgia don't comply with Texas. So I'm not going to say your child will be kicked out of special ed, but certain things will be modified to fit your child, because that might not cover with here. If your child was mainstream somewhere, don't scream and holler, because they're not automatically being mainstreamed here, because the educational standards can be slightly different. So first of all, remember that your child will be reviewed for 30 days. Within those 30 days, that's when the ARD is supposed to occur. And at that time, the ARD is the IEP goals are either adjusted, not adjusted to the negative, but they're adjusted to what your child needs and what Texas has. So don't go in thinking, okay, they're not following, I'm going to do this. No, we need to talk first. Also, parents, your IEP goals. Yes, the teacher, you'll sit there and they'll say, okay, in 6 months we'll meet again. Well, let's just say in 3 months, you're not seeing nothing. You can call another ARD again and have the IEP goals readjusted, parents. The IEP, and like I said, is for your child. So if it's not working, you can always adjust it. Now, don't do it every month. Don't every month say, I don't like this. No, but give it time to work. And if it's not working, then you make sure that you see what's going on. Also, if your child is receiving any services, parents, you can have a log or in a child's notebook where that person signs it when they see your child. So if your child's supposed to get speech for, let's say, 90 minutes a week, you can have that person, that speech pathologist or speech teacher, write into the parent's guideline that you've created, the sheet in their communication book, and sign it whether they had the services or not. You can keep up with it. Therefore, you don't have to have any questions. If your child gets physical therapy or occupational therapy, same thing. Parents, you can create a log book in your child's communication book and have him or her, whoever gives those services to your child, sign it. Fill it out. Just sign. I came September 13, 1:30 to 2. And you don't have to write what they did, but you want to make sure they did it. So that way, parents, you can get rid of all the, are they really getting those services? I don't know. I'm just relying on whatever. No, you can actually check and make sure that they're getting the services that they're supposed to have. Also, parents, when we talk about mainstreaming your child, because that was one of the questions I saw on Facebook about mainstreaming. Mainstream is when we take your child and we put them into a regular ed class, not all day, but for a certain amount of time. So let's say your child is very, very good at reading and learning to read. Then your child will go to a, let's just say, pre-K class during the time that reading is taught. So your child will be in there and not alone. There will be a staff person with your child from that come from that classroom that's with your child to see how your child is doing in that class and to monitor them to make sure that everything is fine, that the kid is kind of getting it, not too far behind. Make sure they understand what's going on. They're kind of there to modify what's going on in that classroom for your child until your kid's good is well enough. And then it's extended according to your child, not according to anybody else. It's extended to your child. So let's say your kid's good at reading and picking up on math a little bit too. Well, then it could be extended to that. So no, we don't mainstream your child all day. Bam, throw them in there and go, okay, fend for yourself. No, it's done for the subjects where your child is strong at. And it's also done in a very intricate way. So if they only can be mainstream an hour, guess what? They're mainstreamed an hour. And that's it. So when we say mainstream, or when you hear parents, don't freak out. Don't think we're kicking your kids out of special ed, because we're not. We're not kicking them out. We're not holding them back. We're not doing anything strange to them except for we're allowing their child to grow. Because the whole objective is if your child can get out of special ed, we want them out. And that should be the bottom line thought to you when we say the word we're mainstreaming we want to mainstream your child. Now, if you as a parent say no, then guess what? It's no. And that's it. It's no. It's just, okay. You don't want it, and we have to service what you say, and the child isn't mainstream. So we don't trick you, force you, or, do anything weird. If you say no, no. If you say yes, then it's tried. Also, if your child is here new, once again, and this IEPs said that they are mainstream to this class for this, yes, they are. But if we find out at a certain time that they're not ready for it in that 30-day period, when you have your ARD, the IEP goes and then adjusted. Because coming from state to state, as we know, not all states are on the same plane as far as education. Some of our states are behind us. Some states are above us. So we have to make the adjustment with your child, but we have 30 days to make that adjustment. So don't think he comes in today on Monday and Tuesday we got everything done. Because, first of all, when we get new children, that's what we call the honeymoon period. The honeymoon is when everything is fine. Everything is good. Child's learning you're learning the child. When the honeymoon is over, kid walks in, you say, put your backpack away, and they go, no, what? You don't say what to the kid, but, you're saying, what? Don't put your backpack away. You've been doing this for 3 days, for a week now. Today you're going to go, no, what? So, and that's when we know the honeymoon's over and we're meeting your child. That's when we get to know who your kid really is. Because they're comfortable now, so they feel more relaxed with, okay, I'm just gonna be me now. I'm just gonna be me. Well, that's when we find out who the kid is, and that's when we actually get to start working with your child. Not to say we're not working with them before, but before we're working with a kid who's new, who's trying to find his way around, his or her, their way around, trying to get to know you, get the feeling of the classroom. Am I gonna be comfortable here? Do these people like me? Or what? All those things are going through their little bitty heads, and we know that. So we call the honeymoon period, and like I said, at that time, we're doing the same thing your kid is doing. Your kid is seeking to find out us. We're seeking to find out about the child. So we're both doing the same thing at the same time. We just have a reason for doing ours, and theirs is just the way they are because we do it everywhere we go. And as adults, we do it at work. When you first get to work, it's the honeymoon period. You got to feel like, do I really fit into this place, to this company? Do I really fit in? Let me see where I fit in at. And first, you fill out the outsider looking in, and then slowly you worm your way into, okay, this is my spot right here. I'm okay now. So adults do the same thing as kids. So the honeymoon period that we saying you look at us weird, you did the same thing when you moved and got your new job or moved to a new duty station. You did the same thing. You didn't walk in the door sitting down and cook and say, this space is mine. You didn't do that. You had to go and figure out what the rules were, what they were all about, and then adjust yourself accordingly. And also, parents, remember that too. When you move to a new district, find out what the rules are in the district that you're in. Don't say in this place, this is what we did, because if that rule doesn't apply to here, we can't do it. So read that book. I know it's a whole bunch in there, but please read the book on the rules and regulations so that you don't sound like the parent who I'm going to say, did you read page 37? And you look at me and say, no. And I might say, well, please read it. I'll say, please read it. And then at that point, you're upset with me because you're thinking I'm calling you, calling you out or whatever like that. And I'm not. I'm just simply realizing that you didn't read the rules and regulations. Thus, you're saying something that we can't possibly do. So parents, guardians, foster parents, kinship parents, please read the guidelines when you come to a new district, and let's not assume. And let's take it the way it goes, especially in special ed, is that we care about your child just as much as you do. But our care is in one area, in the areas of growth. In special ed, what we consider our job to do is to get your child out, because we don't want them trapped into special ed unless they need to be there. Now, if they need to be there, yeah, we're going to do the best we can to give them everything they need, want. We're going to make sure it's get there. But the one thing we try to make sure is that your child can get out and get out as much as possible. If you have a child that can be mainstreamed half the day, we want to mainstream them to a regular class half the day. We want to get that done. So we're not pushing your kid out, not at all. But what we're doing is give them what they need. So like I said, parents on Facebook, I don't want my child mainstream because I don't want them exposed to what? Our regular kids and special ed kids are basically the same, just their learning styles a little differently. You don't want them in the class with mean kids. Well, some of our kids in special ed are quote unquote, as you would call the mean, or the child's going to challenge everything. Yeah, we have them too. So don't think about that. But parents, one, your IEP goes, make sure the school follows them. If they don't, call an ARD. Remember that you're in control of it, not the school. It's your job to find out if it's being followed. It's your job to make sure, that whatever's being done. Also, the communication book that you have, please make sure you read it and answer it back. And if you have 50 questions, put them on there. For real, I'm serious. Put them on there. Put them all on there. If you want to know how your child is doing, don't get into my child not learning nothing all day long. I don't know if they're getting this. I don't know if they're getting that. Well, simply ask. And like I said, if there are services they're supposed to receive, create a sheet in the communication book where the person can sign it all. And then you can make sure that they get them. And if they're not getting them, guess what? You can challenge that and say, hey, listen, my kid's supposed to get 90 minutes of speech a week, and they're only getting 60. What happened? Then that can be addressed. And the time will and can be made up. So don't think they can it just goes away. They have to get the time back, and it has to be made up all over again. So don't get caught up in that, and learn what to do. Parents, if you have a problem with the school and there's something going on that you and the teacher just can't get working right, don't go to admin and talk to Dr. Kraft. Because guess what? He can't do nothing. Seriously, can't do nothing. What do you want him to do? So let's do it the correct way. There are channels you can take as a parent to find out and to how to correct things that happen with your kid. The first thing you do is you do contact the principal and the assistant principal. And I suggest an email, because the email creates a paper trail. If you call them on the phone, there's no trail. But you email them, it's a paper trail. Email them. If you don't get the right response back within a certain amount of time, then you can file a grievance. If you file a level 1 grievance, the lines on that form are real little. So you can put see attached sheet, type up what you need to say and do. When it says what do you want, what's the outcome, do not put teacher fired, because most likely it's not going to be an event, something that will get them fired. Apologize. Remember, in the state of Texas and most states, you cannot force anybody to apologize. That's against the law. I know I sound crazy when I say that, but it is true. It's against the law to make somebody do that, so let's not ask for it. But you can file a grievance. It's a level 1. When you file the level 1 grievance, you put everything on there and you give a copy to the principal. She signs it, he or she signs it. But also, if the principal's not there, the secretary can sign it. In fact, anybody in the front office can sign it. As long as they sign it and you sign it, give it to them. The principal has 10 days to answer you back. On the 11th day, if they have not answered you, you file level 2. And you continue up till your situation gets to be cleared and okay. That's how you handle it. And after that, you can keep on going up the ladder until you get what you want solved. But don't immediately run to the superintendent's office, because guess what? You're going to be sent back to follow the channels that you should have. But if you file your grievances properly and you never get a right answer, then at that time, do what you need to do. Remember that. Like I said, don't jump from point 1 and go all the way up to the superintendent and say, fix this, because he can't. Yeah, I know what happened. He'll say, I'll look into it, but that's not what you want. You want it done the correct way, and you want it done in a way where you can keep a paper trail of what's going on. That's the most important thing you want, is the paper trail to find out who, what, when, where, why, how, and all those things. So do your homework, protect your child, learn the laws and the rules to which we're in. Learn that what happens in KISD might not happen when your child was in Georgia ISD. They're different. So we have to make the adjustments. You can't force a rule that was in one place into another place. You can't do that. But by all means, learn what the rules are so that you don't fall into that trap of you not knowing, and somebody else gets to say, did you read page 37? You go, no. And suddenly you're looking like, yeah. You're looking like Alibaba going around. And also for parents, when the terroristic threats, when a child says someone says something to me, don't take it seriously as far as that second grader or first grader is going to do it. but you take it into the sense that something needs to be done and the child needs somebody to talk to them. So let's not send the child to juvie into jail, because a 7, 8-year-old will completely forget what they did 60 days later. As we know, their attention span is not that long. So let's think about what actions we're going to take when we do it. So all I'm saying is, like I said, let's take a few steps back, listen, learn, pay attention, and remember, do not tell your child not to tattletale, or however you say it. Don't tell them not to do it, because when you do and something happens, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to say anything. When a little child brings something to you, do something about it. Like I told you, the little girl told me this one boy was stepping on shoelaces to, make kids' shoes be untied. That upset her. So she told somebody. Obviously, she told somebody before me. I bet you she did. But, I said she gave me a task. I had to go do what she said. And I reported back to her. I told the teacher. She said, okay. I said, if it happens again, let me know. So guess what? Now she knows, okay, I listened to her. And if it happens again, she can come and tell me. Because I'll do something again. So don't let that happen when a little child tells you something and you do nothing about it. So we're going to take a break and come back with the next topic.